Hey guys, welcome back to Cheers. I have a tutorial on the Ariel Kiss the Girl scene costume. So if you're interested in how to make this costume, then please keep watching. So I'm starting off with a black piece of felt that I've already measured out by kind of wrapping it around my waist. I'm cutting it here to kind of trim it to the right length. So lengths are going to vary. I didn't bother putting in any measurements here, just eyeball it. Everyone's bodies are different, so didn't want to use my measurements for the tutorial. After that, I'm taking a white eyeliner pencil, but you can use whatever you have, something that'll show up on black fabric. This is the part that's going to be towards the bottom of you, meeting the skirt. So there is a little point so it blends in a little better. And then here I'm kind of cutting across to the cut I previously made in a more rounded line. I'm not going straight across so that when you do wear it, it looks a little more natural. And then here I'm kind of going back and straightening up the lines. I like using the felt just because you don't have to hem it. It kind of just is really forgiving and it doesn't fray super easily. So just kind of perfect your lines a little bit. It won't be super noticeable if your lines aren't perfectly straight, like mine aren't perfectly straight. To do the other side of the corset, I folded my fabric in half, right down the middle of the point, as you can see here. And then just so I don't have to eyeball it, I am taking that previously cut side and using it as a template or a stencil to make the exact cut on the other side. Once that's done, I'm going to unfold it and finish cutting the remaining part. This is kind of where it was helpful to have drawn the outlines so you can really make it symmetrical and make the cuts where you want them to be. The next step is to fold your corset again, and we are going to be focusing on the top of the corset. On the side where the crease is, you're going to make a small diagonal cut into the fabric. And then taking my eyeliner pencil again, I kind of rounded out that edge. And this is going to be kind of the breastplate of the corset. So you don't want it to be super angular. Rounded will make it look a lot more appealing and match Ariel's corset in the movie. So unfolded, this is what it looks like, just a small little V. Next, I'm taking just scrap black felt fabric and making small little pieces to make the little loops for the back of the corset for string to be woven through. So just tiny little ones. I just eyeballed them, no measurement really. I think anywhere between a half an inch to a quarter of an inch is perfect. If you don't want to use the remaining fabric and you have black ribbon laying around, then that also works too. So you're going to take those little pieces of fabric and loop them to make a little loop hole for thread to be woven through. So here I'm just using my hot glue gun, putting a little dot on the end and squeezing the two ends together to make a loop that I showed you before. And then after that loop is made, you're going to glue it inside of your corset. So make sure you're gluing it on the inside and not the outside because you don't want this part to be shown. And I'm gluing it so that the ends don't stick out. It's within the material. And you're going to keep doing that until you go all the way down to your corset. I think I spaced mine about 3 to 4 inches away from each other. So depending on how long your corset is, you might have a different number of loops than I do. When you're done with this step, this is what it should look like. So the loops are hidden within the fabric. Next, to do the other side, I'm folding it in half, but then folding the very edge outward so I can kind of see where my loops on the first side that I did are, and that'll help me mirror the same distance between my other loops on the other side. So again, I'm taking the little pieces of fabric, making them into loops, and then gluing them, matching or mirroring it from the other side. After that, you're probably left with a hot glue gun mess, so take some time to pick off all the little webs that the hot glue has made on your corset. And then you're going to take a piece of ribbon, or in my case, I actually glued a bunch of the scrap fabric together to make some ribbon myself. And you're going to weave it through the holes that you made, just like you would your shoelaces on your shoes. So you would be left with something like this. For the skirt, you're going to need some blue fabric, and right here I just folded the big piece of blue fabric in half and I cut out a V shape for the skirt. I literally laid down on the fabric to get my measurements. So after you cut it out, you'll be left with two separate pieces that are the same size and shape. And then you're just going to glue the two sides together, and then it'll make a nice little skirt. And then you can put a piece of elastic or tie the waist part with a ribbon. Next part's my favorite part. We're going to move on to the bow. I have a piece of the same blue fabric, about half a foot in width, and in length probably about a foot and a half. Before we start putting our ribbon together, I have to hem the edges. This blue fabric is not as forgiving as felt and therefore does need to be hemmed, or else the threads will come loose. So I'm just putting a really thin line of hot glue on the very edge and folding the least bit of fabric in that I can. After that, you're going to put the two shorter sides together. So I'm putting a thin line of glue on one of the shorter sides and then gluing the other side on top of that. You want to make sure that the hems you made are on the inside of the loop. Next, we're going to start making the ribbon shape. So I'm pinching the middle and then pinching the sides in so that it looks like a bow and it has that kind of pinched effect as if you really were to tie it. So in the creases, I'm just putting a little dot of hot glue and squeezing the sides together to make a little pinch and a wrinkle in our bow. This will help it give it more of a realistic effect, like you just tied it for real. You're going to do that for both sides, and once that's done, you're going to take another thin piece of fabric. This is about an inch in width. Again, we have to hem the longer side so that the fabric doesn't fray. And then we're going to wrap it around and make sure that you're putting all the hot glue on the back of the ribbon, so the side of the ribbon that maybe didn't turn out as well or that you want to hide. It's also really important that you squeeze it really tight and glue it so that it really is pinched. Don't make a really loose loop or else your bow will look kind of sloppy. After it's glued on, I'm cutting off the excess. As you can see, your bow is really starting to take some shape. Next, you're going to need to cut out some triangular shapes from the scrap fabric you have. And I measured the width using the bow so you can see how it kind of lines up. Again, we're going to need to hem the edges. I'll fast forward this part because you've seen it a bajillion times. But you're going to want to hem the two long sides and then the side that's the same width as the bow. Just like the bow, we're going to pinch the edges and make it look realistic by adding some wrinkles. And then we're going to start attaching this to the back of our bow. Make sure you're attaching it to the back. Then I cut off the excess material and I'm going to put a little glue dot and glue it right onto the back. Glue it a little diagonal so that it really looks like the end of a tied off bow. Repeat these steps exactly for the other side and then you'll be left with Ariel's bow. The last thing you need to put this costume together is a white long sleeve shirt. Now you can kiss the girl. Cheers to a good week, guys. Bye.